Friends, honestly, it's good to be back. It's been 2 years since we were here last time, and it's been 3 years since I made the first video here explaining to you how you can get here, what are the basics that you can do. Well, let me tell you, a few things have changed, so I feel like it is slowly time to make an update on how things in Belarus are going in 2025. This little guy is with us as well on this trip, of course. The process of getting this guy here was a little bit of a harder one though. So he does have a German passport and everything, but since he's kind of going back to his home country, even though he wasn't born here, we had to get some special kind of visa for re-entry so that he can get his Belarusian documents here, because you know his mom, this one right here, hello, is from here. So it was a little bit of a more difficult situation. However, for you, if you want to get here, the visa situation might not be that difficult anymore, at least if you're from a European country. Because as of right now and until the 31st of December 2025, you're able to go here for 30 days visa free. So you just go to the border or to fly to the airport and you can enter this place visa free for 30 days. It's only for the, European countries though. So if you're a US citizen or something, you probably still have to get a visa. But let me tell you, they're very easy to get. I never had any trouble with it, and super cheap as well. So don't let this discourage you from going here. The thing with Oliver is, yes, he walks, but he doesn't really want to walk where we walk. He always strays from the path and goes somewhere else to whatever he thinks is more interesting than walking with us. The other thing with the visa these days is that Belarus launched an e-visa. So even if you need a visa, the process is now a lot more simple as it was before. You don't need to do all of this weird embassy stuff anymore. You can simply go and get your e-visa to get here. Right, there are also a few other requirements, but honestly, they're kind of, self-explanatory. You should have enough money to survive around here, which is around 22 euros. So I'm pretty sure that you have that, 22 euros per day, that is. And of course, a travel insurance that covers up to 10K in cost. Yeah, if you're traveling a lot, you probably already have that. And even if you don't have that, you can still get your Belarusian travel insurance right here at the border, no matter if it's at the airport or at the land border. We still have the situation as we already had in 2022. No direct flights from Europe, it's still a thing. However, there are possibilities. You can always go to Lithuania and then go by bus, or you can go to Poland, to Warsaw, and go by bus. Even though, Lithuania is a little bit better and faster in general, I would still say that this is the best option if you're like in Europe. If it doesn't really matter from where you fly, you can of course also go through Istanbul, for example, or Turkey in general. Or you can go through Dubai, also still an option. But from most of the other countries, there's sadly still no direct flights. So in the end, you'll always somehow end up in a bus. And yes, it can get quite uncomfortable. And yes, the border, the border time, it really always depends. How would you rate the travel experience this time to get to this place?
It cannot be higher than anything I experienced without baby, because with the baby was super inconvenient and uncomfortable. And if I couldn't sleep on a bus before, I realized before it was the best sleeping on the bus, because now I couldn't sleep at all because I had to hold him in my arms for the whole night. And that was bad on my back and arms and everything. But before that, if it's uncomfortable sleeping on a bus for you, please appreciate it. It can get worse.
If you made it into this country and you stay for longer than 10 days, you should definitely not forget to register at the migration office. You know, back then it was a thing that you were only able to do directly at the physical office itself. However, you know, we live in the 21st century, so these days you can do it online. You will get some weird document in PDF form that you then have to present at the border as soon as you leave the country. Don't forget that. This website is also the place where you then enter all of your information like passport number, and that's where you also need your health insurance number. So this is probably the first time where it's going to be important. Some elements may not work in the English version. In that case, just switch to Russian version and use a, you know, translator in the browser or whatever. This time, however, everything also worked in the English version, so you might be good with that as well. So the website you need to go to, you can either see here in the subtitles, or you just go to the website of your foreign ministry or Belarusian foreign ministry, and you will definitely find the link there. Everything is free, you just gotta register, fill out the forms. That's literally it. But as I said, just make sure to not forget that. It may have happened to me once. Soon enough, when you cross the border into Belarus, you will face one problem. And that is that you probably won't have data connection anymore, because even if you have a European SIM card with roaming and everything, it is simply not going to work because, you know, different tariffs, not in the EU, and you can either pay a horrendous amount of money to get your data connection, or you're simply done. I mean, yes, you can look for a Wi-Fi, but also the Wi-Fi connections mostly require a phone number, and some of them are also timed, you know, time limited, and after that you're simply thrown out. I may or may not have had that quite some times. So what does make sense is to also get a SIM card directly here. So you gotta look out for those signs right here, which is MTS. What you can get here is a traveler SIM card, which costs you 40 rubles and gives you unlimited data. Unlimited data, so you can go on social media, you can browse your websites, you can do whatever. The only restriction is that you pay a little bit more, like a little bit of a fee, when you want to use it as a hotspot. So maybe just use the Wi-Fi network if you want to go somewhere online with your laptop and things. But for everything else, navigation, social media, whatever you do on your phone, MTS is the one. Even though, yeah, I get it. We live in the 21st century, so you might think, SIM cards, who still deals with that? You know, there's eSIMs all around. Yes, that is true. No, I do not really have any experience with that, honestly. So I thought, you know what? I rather recommend you the classic way to handle this. Also, none of those companies sponsored me or anything, so why should I tell you about those anyway? In Germany, we have a saying, which is nur Bares ist Wahres, which means something like only cash is true money. Cash is king. And cash is king is also a motto that is still valid for Belarus, as you probably won't be able to get any money at some ATM, so make sure that you bring money with you. Euros, dollars, everything works. You know, card payments also mostly work in, well, you know, those privately owned businesses and stuff. Everything official, everything governmental is probably going to decline your card, and there's like no absolute guarantee. So just make sure to bring some cash and then go to places like this one, which is a bank, to change it to Belarusian rubles. Let's see how much we will get out of the money that we have with us. We can't film it there, obviously. We made it back from the bank. We went there with 500 euros and we now came back with 1,690 Belarusian rubles. The exchange rate was about 3.38, which is that solid? Or did we get scammed?
You know, it's different every year. I'm not keeping up with this. At this time, it is like that. As I said, let's see in 5 years. Let's rewatch this vlog.
Exactly.
Say, wow, this rate was really good.
Back then, in the good old times. You know, we have a big advantage here because all of her friends, relatives, whatever, are around here in Polotsk. So we have a place to stay because we're, you know, staying in a private apartment that you own, or who owns that thing?
Well, it's mine, yes.
Okay, it's hers, yeah. However, if you're a tourist here, you might run into a little bit of trouble there as well, because the big platforms like Airbnb, Booking, and whatever the names are banned.
That's why Belarus created their own websites to look for apartments. Yeah, they transferred all the bookings to those new websites, and we have our big website in Belarus here, Kufar Buy. That's where you used to get apartments to buy, apartments to rent, but as a Belarusian. And now I think they added a section for foreigners where you pay basically per night, because as a Belarusian you probably can rent for 300, 400 euros per month, and as a foreigner it will be like a week, 300 or 400.
Does
yeah,
make
you can
sense.
also rent apartments hourly here in Belarus. Depends
Wow.
on your needs. What else? What other website do you know? Was it Rumor?
I think Rumor is
Yeah.
also one of them. Yeah, at least that's the rumor around here. Of course, there's also, like in every other country, there's hotels all around. They can also help you if you need any invitation for your visa. And this, registration, if you stay longer than 10 days, they can also do for you.
Yeah.
Some of the people who rent out apartments do that as well, by the way. We also already had that
They help.
privilege right there. So yeah, price-wise, it might still be a little bit less than the more famous cities or countries here in Europe, but still, after all, it's tourist prices or foreigner prices.
Yeah.
Depends how you want to say it.
If you need contacts of great locations and apartments that we already stayed and we liked, contact him. Private.
Contact me privately.
Yeah.
Slide into my DMs. Yeah. Anyway, whenever you have a question, my Instagram is always open for your stuff. So I always try to reply within a day. Sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. But
If you
overall-
contact me, I reply within a minute.
Oh, there you go. That might be easier.
I'm
then.
his manager.
Right. It's actually good to have a manager around here, or someone who knows the language, because English is not really that much spread around
In
these
Minsk,
areas here.
yes. Once you're out of Minsk, you'll have a trouble.
Exactly, but even in Minsk, I feel like it's not that many people. It's
In
probably going to get
restaurants,
more.
Not many people. Like people around Minsk, of course, it's still hard to find anyone speaking English. In restaurants in Minsk and train station, buying tickets, anything, Minsk would be definitely more English oriented.
However, you're never wrong if you know a few words in Russian and have basic communication with hands and feet, or if not, have a SIM card so that you can translate everything. Always helpful. Gotta see that we make it to the bus. It is approaching. Right, yeah, I already see it. Yeah, so right here, especially in Minsk, you basically have any option possible to go wherever you need. You have buses, you have taxis, you have the metro system, you have a lot of things. Car sharing, yes. Anyway, more on that when we're on the bus. We still made it on time, and actually you get the tickets right here in the bus.
For 1 ruble.
For 1 ruble.
If you buy it out of the bus, you pay a bit less, either 90 cents or something.
Okay.
On the bus is considered a rush, you have to be prepared. Then
Yeah.
you can also get the monthly card. You get a card for any transfer. It could be subway, could be all included, could be just the bus, just the tram, just the subway, or all. And then you can enter the bus and do beep, and that's it. Another variant is to have an app. We have a Belarusian app where you put money on it, and you don't connect your card, you just put money on the app and then pay with the app. And little buses or big buses or any transport also, all can be done without cash.
Very nice. Yeah, this one basically now allows us to go as far as we want with this bus, but as soon as we change, for example, we gotta get a new ticket in the next bus, in the metro, or wherever. Buses are also available in all of the other cities, so you always have the option to somehow go somewhere by bus. And of course taxi. People use Yandex Go here for taxi. So yeah, with a child it's usually a little bit more difficult because you would need a child seat. Move Moving out of the bus, we directly have the metro station right in front of us.
One downside, not all of them have elevator.
Right, let's go. There we gotta pay our things in advance, so we got those selling points right here where we will get our access to the metro. And this right here is what you get here. Who knows how long they've been in use already, but this is basically your ticket to enter the metro station.
Yep. As you enter through those gates, you can use this ticket. You can also pay with your phone or with your card. Just put it and you go. Or you can use this.
Card, however, also depends, you know, if your card is accepted. As you can see, metro stations are also super clean. Hello, New York. Quite a contrast to, to some others, exactly. The metro system is also quite simple. I'll show you when we're in there. There's only 3 lines here in Minsk, and you can basically already get everywhere from here. What you also have is a very nice style, very unique style of every single station. So right here, for example, as you can see, you have those marble tiles, and they depict, I don't know if it's the Russian thing right here. There you go. But that is only like exclusive to this station. The next station can already look completely different again, but all of them are very, very beautiful, and all of them are very, very clean. Some train is arriving. They arrive very often and in very short intervals. There he is. And another one on the other side. Wow, look at that. At almost exactly the same time. Crazy. All right, let's get in there. This right here is what the subway network looks like here. So you have the red line and the blue line going in across like this, and then the weird new green line. And there you go, the green line. You know, we haven't been here for 2 years, so the green line also has more stations already as last time when we were there. And there's more stations planned on top here. As you can see, looks completely different than the one where we started, this station right here. This one right here makes a whole lot of sense for the Lenin Square. There you go, exiting the metro. We're traveling very light today. We don't have that much luggage with us as we obviously had when we arrived here. But if you have a lot of luggage, it might be that they will inspect your luggage just like they do at the airport, you know, run it through some X-ray thing. So yeah, I don't know, just be prepared for that. We took the elevator up from the metro and we're now in the central train station of Minsk. This is where you go if you want to go further than just around Minsk. So there's the option to go with trains all around here in Belarus, and we're actually going to some place which is providing an alternative to also travel around or to get to other places that you don't really reach by train. There you go. What you see here is a bus, a minibus, which leads somewhere. Not entirely sure where this one leads, but those minibuses, they also basically go all around Belarus, cost about that much. I'll just put it here because I don't know. And yeah, you can basically get anywhere. They also, you know, stop in some smaller villages and things. So those minibuses, even though they get a little bit uncomfortable after 2 hours maybe, are also one of the ways to get around here in Belarus. And then of course, on this side, the buses that go further away. This is also where you will arrive when you, for example, come from Vilnius and go to Minsk. If you take a look around here, you will notice that everything is very, very clean. I mean, of course, we're now in a park, but even if you walk around in the city, you will notice that there's no trash laying around, and the streets, they're always clean.
Yes, that is true.
There's probably a heavy fine also for littering here, is it?
Probably not, but
no?
It's just, no, people are just nice.
People just have common sense, that's
exactly.
Crazy. Wow. The other thing you might notice around here, or the feeling that you will get very fast, at least I got that feeling very fast, that it's also very safe around here. You can also walk here at night and you wouldn't have to be scared about any, well, maybe some drunk people out there,
yeah.
but at least, you know, you won't get robbed, stabbed or whatever. So safety is very much given. Also, speaking of safety, we just came back from that thing. Good old Soviet roller coaster, and it of course is also still safe. If we're talking about safety, you're probably only thinking about one thing now, and that is all of the horror stories that you hear about Belarus and getting detained and doing whatever. Look, there's a very simple rule, which is as simple as it is complex, as it is controversial. This simple rule is, don't be an idiot. Belarus, as every other country, has their own laws as well, and it's not about you agreeing with those. It is simply, you are a guest in this country, you behave by their rules, just like you would in any other country as well. If there's some other country that has rules and laws but doesn't really enforce them, that's honestly the country's problem. So simply go by the rules and nothing will happen to you. That's a guarantee. Nobody's following me, nobody is forcing me to say that. This is how I see it. So, let's assume you did all of those things. You are in the country, you have your place to stay, you have your money, you have your SIM card, you have everything. What now? Well, Belarus is what you make out of it. You have beautiful nature around, you have nice cities around, you can make this trip whatever you want it to be. And I have a lot of videos on that. So if you need some inspiration where to go, like for example, if you want to end up in this place that you can see right here, you may be interested to watch the whole playlist. And that being said, thank you so much for watching. And let's get out of here.